I reset the entire NHL back to the original six. Ah, yes, the original six, the teams that started us off here in the NHL. Of course, we have the Boston Bruins, the Chicago Blackhawks, the Red Wings, the Montreal Canadiens, the New York Rangers, and last but definitely not least, well, actually, maybe least because they haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1967, but we have the Toronto Maple Leafs, the laughingstock of the NHL. This is the original six teams that started us off, that built the foundation for the NHL to become what it is today. And a lot of these teams have not won a Stanley Cup in a long time. So I'm going to go ahead and we are going to simulate 5 full seasons here in NHL 24 and see who goes on and takes home the Stanley Cup as well as all the individual awards. See who dominates the points race every single season. See which players flourish and which crumble under the pressure of only having 6 teams in the NHL. Toronto, if you do not win a Stanley Cup, you are an utter failure. I mean, you're already a failure, but you're even worse of a failure. Now, I did do this last year in NHL 23, and believe it or not, Toronto, I believe, won 3 or 4 Stanley Cups. They were a dynasty, the best team in the video. I'm not expecting that to happen again, but you never know, it might here in NHL 24, so let's go ahead, take a look, and see who dominates the original 6 here in NHL 24. Before we do that, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you do enjoy videos just like this. Also, turn on the bell notification so you don't miss a single live stream or video that I put out on the channel. Also, I do realize that Chicago has an absolutely terrible roster. They're probably going to be the worst team in the video here. They're most likely not going to make the playoffs even once, as only 4 teams are going to make it, and their best player is Bedard, but everybody else on that team. So at the end of season number 1, the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to go ahead and be the best team in the NHL as they go 46, 30, and 6, good enough for 98 points, followed by the Red Wings, the Rangers, and the Bruins, as Chicago and Montreal are both going to miss the playoffs. Yeah, I completely forgot. Montreal also has a piss poor team. They only won 34 games. Chicago actually won 1 more than them, which is very disappointing if you're a Montreal Canadiens fan. But there we go. We got the 4 teams making the playoffs, as probably everybody predicted, as Brad Marchand is going to go ahead and lead the entire NHL in scoring with 109 points, followed by Austin Matthews, 97. Dylan Larkin had 96. Nylander, 96. Pasta was up there. The brink kid. Patrick Kane had 88, the same number that he wears in real life. Marner had 85. Suzuki was up there. For the goals side, Austin Matthews will lead with 49 goals, one shy of a 50-goal season. Bedard had 48, Marchand 44, Caulfield had 42, Patrick Kane had 40, Dylan Larkin 37 for defensemen in the original 6 teams here. I don't believe they have a lot of good ones outside of maybe McAvoy and Fox, as Fox will have 75 points. McAvoy only 58 and a -6. Morgan Riley had 54, Seth Jones 44 and a -24. Ilya Samsonov, who literally just pitched a shutout last night against the Winnipeg Jets, is going to lead in wins with 35, followed by Allmark's 32, Shesterkin had 32, Ville Husso 31. Now, on the shutout side, it's going to be a 2-way tie between Linus Allmark and Samsonov. They would each have 5 apiece. Soderblom, Husso, James Reimer, and Shesterkin had all 2. And in the Stanley Cup playoffs, we have Toronto versus Boston, Detroit versus the Rangers, 2 original 6 matchups. Obviously, every matchup here is going to be an original 6. I don't even know what I'm saying. But let's see who goes on and advances to the Stanley Cup Finals. And the Toronto Maple Leafs have slayed their demons as they defeated Boston in Game 7 of the very first round. The Rangers beat the Red Wings in 6 games. So we have a matchup between New York and Toronto. Let's see who goes on and wins the Stanley Cup in season number 1. And of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to choke a Game 7 scenario in the Stanley Cup Finals, as the Rangers are going to go on and win the Stanley Cup in season number 1, as they do beat Toronto in Game 7. I mean, Toronto is the most fragile team in the entire NHL. This is not that surprising. And the Rangers, really, they do simulate well in this game. They simulated very well last year as well, and it seems like nothing has changed this season or this game, as Adam Fox is going to take home that Conn Smythe. Only 1 goal, but 18 points in only 2 rounds. You guys got to remember that. So the point totals are not going to be that insane. And hey, maybe the good news is, Toronto fans, you get to see the cup raised on home ice, but it is not for the Toronto Maple Leafs, so maybe that's even worse. Maybe it's more painful. I don't even know. But here comes the greatest captain in the NHL, Jacob Trouba, coming to lift the Stanley Cup for the first time in his career, as the Rangers have done it all in year number 1. So Artemi Panarin is going to lead the entire NHL. Actually, him and Adam Fox are going to tie for the most points in the playoffs at 18. Blake Wheeler, 16. Matthews had 15, also 10 goals. Chris Kreider had 14. Brad Marchand is going to take home the Ted Lindsay, Art Ross, and Hart Trophy, while Matthews will win that Maurice Richard. The Norris is going to go to Adam Fox. The Conn Smythe as well to Adam Fox. The Vezina to Shesterkin, and the Selke will go to Mika Zibanejad of the New York Rangers, which I don't think I've ever seen him win this trophy. Now, at the end of the second season, the defending champions in the New York Rangers are going to finish first in the NHL as they go 49, 26, and 7. Good enough for 105 points, followed by Boston. Montreal actually made the playoffs, winning 42 games, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. So the Red Wings have fallen out of the playoffs, and Chicago, yet again, I mean, they're probably not going to make the playoffs at least once in this video. I'd be shocked and surprised if they did, as yet again, Brad Marchand is going to lead everybody in points with 111 this season, followed by Adam Fox's 110. Only 7 goals, but 103 assists. Pasta had 106, Zibanejad 103, Breadman 101, Matthews was up there with 99, Caulfield had a pretty good season. Now on the goal side, Pasta will lead with 56, followed by Zibanejad, who had a very big season, 53 goals. Matthews had 48, Marchand 39, Caulfield was up there, Breadman, Patrick Kane was good, Taylor Radish had 32 goals. Adam Fox, of course, is going to lead every D-man with 110 points, followed by McAvoy 65, Morgan Riley had 60, and it kind of falls off after that. I mean, Matheson at 44, Miller 43, wasn't really great for goalies. Igor is going to lead with wins with 40, followed by Allmark's 33, Samsonov at 32. On the shutout side, Ville Husso is going to lead with 4, followed by Allmark's 3, Shesterkin at 3, James Reimer again had 2. He only played 27 games though, so the goalies have really not shown up. I mean, there's not 2 great goalies in the original 6 teams. The best is what? Igor Shesterkin. And in the playoffs, with the Rangers up against Toronto, then Boston and Montreal. So let's see who goes on and advances to the Stanley Cup Finals here in year number 2. And in the Stanley Cup Finals, we yet again have the New York Rangers, but this time they're up against the Boston Bruins. So let's see who's going to go on and win the Stanley Cup in the end of year number 2. As the Boston Bruins are going to go on and win the Stanley Cup here in season number 2 as they defeated the Rangers in the Stanley Cup Finals, dethroned the defending champs who are looking to go back-to-back, but Boston has spoiled that, and they are one of the better teams in the original 6. I'd say probably top 2, maybe top 3. So this is definitely not surprising, but very well deserved as they did dethrone New York. As Boston is finally going to be able to raise a Stanley Cup on home ice, because back in 2011 when they won it, it was in Vancouver with all those riots in Game 7. But now here at home, they're going to raise it, as their newly captain, Brad Marchand, is going to come lift the Stanley Cup for the 2nd time in his career, as Boston has won it all here in year number 2. Now for the playoffs, Vinny Trocheck is going to lead with 16 points, followed by Zibanejad's 15, also 10 goals. Breadman had 15, Pasta 13. As Adam Fox is going to take home the Ted Lindsay, Hart Trophy, and the Norris, while the Art Ross will go to Brad Marchand and Maurice Richard to David Pasternak. Pavel Zacha is going to win the Conn Smythe. The Vezina will go to Igor, and the Selke is going to head back to... Actually, no, Nick Suzuki is going to win the Selke. So yet again, the Rangers are going to finish as the best team in the NHL, which only has 6 teams. They would go 51, 22, and 9. Good enough for 111 points, followed by Boston, Toronto, and Montreal again making the playoffs, as the Red Wings and Chicago both missed for the 2nd season in a row. What is going on, Detroit? Why are you guys fumbling the bag to the Montreal Canadiens, who have an awful hockey team? Austin Matthews is going to go ahead and lead the entire NHL in goals with 59 and points with 102, followed by Zibanejad's 94. Suzuki also had 94. Breadman was up there. Nylander 91. Marchand only 88, so he took a slight step back this season. Adam Fox had 87, Marner 86 on the goal side, other than Matthews, of course, because he did lead the NHL with 59. Cole Caulfield had 40, Panarin had 37. That's going to be 3rd place in the NHL. Zibanejad 36, Gallagher had 36, Pasternak only 30, and Patrick Kane 31. For defensemen, Adam Fox is going to lead with 87, followed by McAvoy's 53, Riley had 53, Matheson 44. For goalies, Linus Ullmark and Igor Igor Shesterkin are going to tie for the most wins at 38. Samsonov at 29 and Ville Husso 28 on the shutout side. Igor will lead with 5, followed by Jake Allen's 4. Allmark had 3 and Ville Husso 2, as well as Jonathan Quick. And in the Stanley Cup playoffs, we have the Rangers up against Montreal and then Boston versus Toronto. Let's see who advances to the Stanley Cup finals here in year number 3. And yet again, we have another rematch here in the Stanley Cup finals between the New York Rangers and the Boston Bruins. Of course, Boston surprised the Rangers last season and beat them in the finals, ruining their back-to-back Stanley Cups. But now let's see if the Rangers can return the favor and ruin Boston's back-to-back Stanley Cups here in year number 3. And the New York Rangers are going to pull an Uno reverse card on Boston as they ruin their back-to-back Stanley Cups just like Boston did to them last season. And they are going to go on and win the Stanley Cup here in year number 3 as they do defeat the Bruins in the Stanley Cup finals in a very, very tight series. Pause. But they are going to get it done. They got their revenge over last season. Losing to Boston, the finals must have hurt. As yet again, the Stanley Cup will be raised in TD Garden here in Boston, but this time not for the Bruins as the Rangers are going to get it done. Here comes Jacob Trouba yet again coming to lift the Stanley Cup for the second time in the video as he has led the Rangers to another Stanley Cup. Somehow, Blake Wheeler led the playoffs in scoring with 14 points, followed by Marchand's 13. Pasta had 12. Sean Monahan had 12. Adam Fox had 12. Breadman 11. Austin Matthews is going to take home all the individual awards. The Norris will go to Adam Fox. The Conn Smythe, of course, to Blake Wheeler. The Vezina to Igor Shesterkin, as the Selke will head to Austin Matthews. So the Boston Bruins are going to have a revenge season of their own as they finished first in the NHL. They only won 44 games, losing 26 and 12 in overtime. Those 12 overtime losses really helped them. Followed by the Red Wings, who are back in the playoffs, Toronto and New York, as Montreal has yet again fallen out. And Chicago, well, I would say you guys are just like the Titanic and are at the bottom of the Atlantic, but I think I used that joke already. And this is the entire NHL, not the Atlantic Division. Chicago's not even in the Atlantic in NHL in real life. They're literally in the Central, so Pasta, why are you saying stupid things just like this? All right, I'm just going to continue on here and forget that even happened. Patrick Kane is going to lead the NHL in scoring with 95 points, followed by Mitch Marner's 91. Matthews had 88. Nylander, 83. Alex DeBrincat was up there. Dylan Larkin, Breadman, Suzuki. The same guys are pretty much up here for the goals. Patrick Kane is going to lead with 44, followed by Bedard's 42 as a rookie. Matthews had 40. DeBrincat, 35. Cole Caulfield was up there. Marchand, Zibanejad, Pasta now for defensemen. Adam Fox is going to lead with 71 points, followed by Morgan Riley's 54. Seth Jones only had 49. McAvoy only 44. It kind of falls off after that. Allmark and Husso are going to tie for wins with 35, followed by Samsonov's 30. Jake Allen had 29 now for shutouts. Jake Allen is going to tie for the most with Linus Allmark. They would each have 5 apiece. Joseph Wall had 4. Jonathan Quick had 3. And in the Stanley Cup playoffs, we have Boston versus the Rangers. Detroit up against Toronto. Let's see who advances to the finals. And in the Stanley Cup finals, we have the highly anticipated matchup between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Boston Bruins. So let's see who's going to go home with the Stanley Cup at the end of season number 4. And the Boston Bruins are going to continue to big brother the Toronto Maple Leafs as they beat them when it matters most here in the Stanley Cup finals in 5 games as well, so the series was not that close. Obviously, Toronto beat them in the first round a couple years ago. In Game 7, I thought they slayed their demons then, but I mean, it came back up here in the finals because they got dominated, as Brad Marchand's going to take home the Conn Smythe, 5 goals and 14 points for the captain, as Boston yet again owns the Toronto Maple Leafs in the playoffs. And here comes the Bruins yet again coming to lift the Stanley Cup for, I believe, the 3rd time in the video, maybe the 4th time, I don't even know. No, the 3rd time. I'm so lost at this point. Regardless, they are a multi-time Stanley Cup champion. Here's Brad Marchand lifting it yet again. I believe they only have 2 Stanley Cup wins, because it was New York in year number 1, then Boston in year number 2, then New York in year number 3, and now Boston yet again in year number 4. As William Nylander is going to lead the playoffs in scoring with 15 points, followed by Brad Marchand's 14, Pasta had 13, Marner 13, and Matthews 12, also 8 goals. Mitch Marner is going to win the Ted Lindsay and Hart Trophy, while the Art Ross and Maurice Richard are going to go to Patrick Kane. The Norris to Adam Fox, the Conn Smythe will go to Brad Marchand, the Vezina to Linus Allmark, Ullmark, and the Selke will go to Matthews yet again. Now, at the end of the final season, the New York Rangers are going to go ahead and be the best team in the NHL as they go 46, 25, and 11. Good enough for 103 points. Also tied with the Montreal Canadiens, winning 47 games on the season. Toronto also made the playoffs, as well as the Chicago Blackhawks. No way Chicago made the playoffs. Not only Chicago, but also Montreal as the defending champs, in Boston and the Red Wings have both missed the playoffs. I guess we're going all out here in year number 5. Never in a million years did I think Chicago was going to make the playoffs, let alone Chicago and Montreal in the same season. And a rookie in Connor Bedard is going to tie for the most points in the NHL with 90 alongside Adam Fox, who also had 90. David Pastrnak had 88, Zibanejad 84, Matthews 83, Bradman 83. Marner was up there on the goal side. Matthews will lead with 47, followed by Bedzies 35, Marchand 35, Zibanejad 35. Taylor Hall somehow had 33 goals. Pasta was up there. Cole Caulfield at 30. Brendan Gallagher 29 for defensemen. Obviously, Adam Fox is going to dominate with 90 points. Followed by McAvoy, who had 56. Riley 48. God damn, it really falls off. Not a lot of defensemen putting up a lot of points in the simulation here. Linus Ullmark is going to lead in wins with 35, followed by Peter Mrazek's 31. Shesterkin at 29. Jake Allen 28. Samsonov at 28. And for the shutout side, Ullmark's going to lead with 5, followed by Jonathan Quick, who had 3. Shesterkin at 3. Jake Allen 2. Joseph Wall 2. And now in the playoffs, we have the New York Rangers up against the Chicago Blackhawks, and then the Montreal Canadiens versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, somehow the Toronto Maple Leafs came back down 3-0 to the Montreal Canadiens, beat them in round number 1, and now they're going up against the New York Rangers in the Stanley Cup Finals. So let's see if the Rangers can win their 3rd Stanley Cup of the video, or if Toronto can finally get it done and win their very first one since 1967. And the Toronto Maple Leafs are finally gonna get it done for the first time since 1967. They can call themselves Stanley Cup champions, breaking the over 50-year curse on the team. They actually signed Phil Kessel, I guess, throughout the season, because there he is right there. Phil the Thrill back in Toronto, baby, and the Stanley Cup as well back in the 6, as they are going to go on and defeat the New York Rangers in 6 games in the finals. Mitch Marner's your Conn Smythe winner, 6 goals and 19 points, as this is their 2nd Stanley Cup final, I believe, of the video, and they are finally going to get it done. They did lose in year number 1 to the New York Rangers, but now they're going to get the revenge, as the Stanley Cup is going to be raised here in Toronto, as Captain John Tavares is going to lift the Stanley Cup for the first time in his career, as the Toronto Maple Leafs have finally done it here in the 5th and final season. William Nylander is going to lead the NHL in scoring for the playoffs with 20, followed by Matthews, who had 19. Marner had 19. Breadman 17. Vinny Trocheck was up there with 15. Adam Fox is going to take home the Ted Lindsay, the Hart Trophy, and the Norris, while the Art Ross will go to Connor Bedard and Maurice Richard to Austin Matthews. Mitch Marner, of course, won the Conn Smythe. The Vezina will go to Jake Allen, and the Selke is going to go to Mika Zibanejad yet again. And there you have it. We finally got it done. We reset the NHL back to the original 6, and I guess that's what it's going to take for the Toronto Maple Leafs to win a Stanley Cup, because the last time they won it, there was only 2 rounds, and of course, now that I reset the NHL back to 6 teams, there was also 2 rounds in the playoffs, which I guess is the only way they can go on and actually win a Stanley Cup. Regardless, let me know in the comments what you guys would like to see next. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, don't be silly, wrap your willy.